chief negotiators from China and the United States plan to hold high-level trade talks next month in Washington, D.C. That follows deputy ministerial-level trade talks in Washington last weekend.
The two teams seriously discussed the specific arrangements for the 13th high-level meeting at the deputy ministerial level meeting. They are now maintaining close communication and making preparations for the upcoming talks.
Commerce Ministry spokesman Gao Feng says China's stance is consistent. Beijing wants to find a win-win solution with the U.S. based on equality and mutual respect. China and the U.S. held their 12th round of high-level trade talks at the end of July. Both sides called the talks constructive, but then U.S. President Trump unexpectedly announced he planned to add an additional 10% of tariffs on Chinese exports with a value of $300 billion. After this bombshell, trade talks were put on hold and just resumed. Chinese purchases of American agricultural products were cut off. But the latest deputy ministerial level meeting seems to have thawed the frozen trade negotiations, and both sides are sending out positive signals ahead of the high-level trade talks. Washington has released a new list of Chinese goods that will no longer be subject to additional tariffs. Correspondingly, China has also resumed the purchases of American agricultural products.
Chinese enterprises have started checking prices and purchasing American agricultural products, following market rules and regulations of the World Trade Organization. A relatively big number of deals on soybeans and pork have been completed. Beijing will remove the additional tariffs on those American products.
Gao says China has a big appetite for high-quality agricultural products, and the two countries' markets complement each other. He called for the two countries to create good conditions for cooperation.
Hong Kong Chief Executive Carrie Lam says talks should be held with the public no matter how difficult the issues may be. She made the remark during the first community dialogue session with Hong Kong residents. Lam said it is still the government's hope that dialogue will triumph over conflict for peace to be restored and trust to be regained within the society. She also called for joint efforts and consultations to improve Hong Kong. The session aimed to listen and respond to public views and concerns amid months of protests in the city. More than 20,000 people registered to attend, and 150 of them were randomly selected to participate in the first session.
It's expected to be the grandest parade in the history of the People's Republic of China. The military parade scheduled for October the 1st will involve over 15,000 military personnel who will be divided into 59 formations, aligned in foot, armament, and flight formations.
The parade is the first National Day parade since the CPC Central Committee, with Comrade Xi Jinping at the core, leading the whole party, the entire army and all ethnic groups into a new era. It's the first time for the armed forces of the People's Republic to appear after they have been reshaped.
Some new formations will make their debut in the parade, including those of commanders, military academies, and peacekeeping regiments. The armament displayed during the parade will showcase the very latest military strength of the PLA.
All the armaments ready for review are the domestically made battle equipment, much of which is in service, including some new types of PLA armament. It will showcase the combat system of our joint operation.
3 rehearsals have been held, and the quality is guaranteed for each of them.
Everything is ready, and we expect the arrival of that solemn and exciting moment.
Senior PLA officials say through the parade, the Chinese military will be further determined to safeguard national interests and contribute to world and region's peace and stability.
The words of Chinese President Xi Jinping sum up the ideology of the White Paper.
China's plan is to build a community with a shared future for mankind to achieve win-win cooperation and common prosperity.
The concept of creating a community with a shared future for mankind was first proposed in 2012. President Xi Jinping raised the idea again in 2017. The white paper says China values mutual respect and equal consultation on political issues and seeks dialogue instead of confrontation on security matters. China promotes open and win-win cooperation in economic development. It respects the diversity of world civilizations and promotes an environmentally friendly development pattern and joint efforts to fight climate change. China promises to build a new model of international relations based on mutual respect, fairness, justice, and win-win cooperation. China will actively develop international partnerships, seeking common ground while resolving differences with major powers such as the United States, Russia, and the European Union. In the face of rising unilateralism, China believes that the world must solve problems through reforms in the process of progress. Future plans for this include continuing to open its doors to the world, accelerating regional economic integration, and promoting the internationalization of its currency, the RMB. The white paper also highlights cultural exchange. China says it adheres to an equal, diversified, inclusive, and open view on civilization. It is foolish to think that one's own ethnic group and civilization are superior to others. In practice, it is disastrous. To artificially create a clash of civilizations can only aggravate the gap between civilizations and plunge the world into division and confrontation. From actions to ideology, the white paper says China is looking to play a peaceful role in the international arena, echoing the words of President Xi.
不对任何国家构成威胁。
No matter how far China develops, you will never seek hegemony or expansion.
China is looking to actively participate in reform and construction of the systems of global governance. Abiding by the principle of consultation, contribution, and shared benefits, China works to support reform of international organizations such as UN, the IMF, and the World Bank, and continuing to promote innovation in concept of governance, contributing China's wisdom to the world.
UK's highest court ruling the Prime Minister's suspension of Parliament illegal. The decision was reached unanimously by the Supreme Court's 11 judges. That's the maximum number that could hear a case like this. The Prime Minister suspended Parliament on the 10th of September, with lawmakers only set to return to work 5 weeks later. Calling that move null and void, this latest ruling will allow politicians to return almost immediately. The Prime Minister said he disagreed with the ruling, but that his government will respect the judicial process. Opposition lawmakers are already calling for him to resign. There's little indication from his camp that he's willing to do so. This historic ruling is likely to serve as a reminder to the British leader that in UK politics it's Parliament that's sovereign and that these houses still have great power.